Mingalaba, Mabuhay! Welcome to the Webshop series on nurturing ourselves as whole person educators. There are 6 Webshops in this series organized by the United Board for Myanmar alumni of United Board programs. The Webshops are virtual workshops which express our solidarity with Myanmar colleagues and are aimed at supporting and sustaining their continuing whole person education during this challenging time of their country's history. Each video recording has been edited for brevity and is made available for other educators who may find some valuable strategies to cope with similar challenges. Once again, welcome.
So today the topic given to me is peace as integral to being whole person educator. I've been working in this peace building department for now 5 years. And my area of teaching is religion, gender. So I combine both these components together. So how religion contributes to conflict and peace, and how gender is intersects with conflicts and peace. And so my presentation today sounds very religious. And so I'm more into the religious approach to peace building. I usually start my class here with morning meditation. It's not like the Buddhist meditation for quietness, but meditation I prefer for my students is intellectual meditation to reflect on wisdom codes. So I would like us to join me in this meditation for around 5 minutes. I have selected some of my favorite wisdom codes to share with you this morning. While meditating, I would like you to share your reflection just briefly in the chat box. What is your favorite code and why you like it, what you learned from it? So let us start. Who would like to share?
I like number 8, because the perfume of flowers blows not against the wind, nor does the fragrance of sandalwood. So exciting for me because of the perfume of flower is it's against the wind, and fragrance of the various blow against the wind. The various person pervades every direction. Is something. It is perfume is just like our morality, our virtue. So if we have the something ethical principle to practice every day, our moral action is just like a perfume. So it can pervade every direction. So this is our, if we have the good actions, a good physical action or verbal action or mental action, our actions pervade every direction to be to do build a peace building. So something, as you say, something we need to our not only our peace building, but also peace building to other people. So this is why I like number 8.
I like number 7 because, these days I want my life to be easier, better, and less challenged, because I think they would reduce my stress in the current situation. But this number 7 remind me of to remember to get my more skills and more wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you. In peace building, there are many ways. We have top-down approach, military governments. We have kind of grassroots level, bottom-up. But today, we will approach peace from the Eastern way, from inside out, from personal peace to collective peace, from inner peace to external peace. The cultivation of inner peace is the beginning to realize external peace. And from the cause, we can see that not all of us can do great things, isn't it? But we can start by ourselves. If we want to change the world, we can change ourselves first. So our self-transformation is the greatest gift that we can provide to the world. It becomes the model, the example for others to see. It's like fragrance. It persuades every corners of the world. So today we will examine how to be a peaceful educator and how to cultivate skills for peace as educators through the examples of 2 wise educators of ancient time, the Buddha and Confucius. So this is the outline of my talk today. So first, I will go briefly to the background about the lives of the Buddha and Confucius, how they are wise educators in their context. They come from the context of turmoil, just like us today. And I single out 2 skill sets to share with us today so we can take home for our cultivation practice. The first skill framework is how to become virtuous, skillful, and prudent in dialogue for solving problems from Gotama the Buddha. And the second skill we can learn from Confucius, how to improve ourselves through lifelong learning. And then finally, we will have time for reflection and planning for our self-improvements. So these 2 skills come from my own study of the sacred texts. I studied the Buddhist scriptures, the Pali Canon, the Sutta Pitaka, and I constructed this framework. And also for Confucius, I studied the Analects and the Great Learning, and I constructed the model by myself. So today I bring to you what I have learned from myself and I share with you. So let's explore the Buddha's life. So we all know the Buddha. He is one of the famous religious founders, one of the world religions today. So the Buddha, his name Gotama, Siddhartha Gotama, but people call him Gotama the Buddha or Sakyamuni, the Buddha. Sakya means the name of the clan. Muni means the sage or wise person. So the sage from Sakya clan. So he was born around 500 BC, before the Common Era, from a clan at the border of India and Nepal. So he's from a royal family. So his father was like the king and he was the prince. He left home at the age of 29 and he got enlightened when he was 35 and he died at 80. So according to the tradition. So the Buddha is seen as the symbol of an ideal human being of virtue, wisdom, and peace for a large population of the world. And he is the product of intense self-cultivation. We see that it's not natural. The Buddha went through a very difficult process of cultivation of himself to become the Buddha. So for 6 years, he tried different wrong ascetic practices in the jungle. And finally, he found the right way by himself. So that's why we have Buddhist religion today, thanks to the Buddha. And he was an educator in the context of turmoil. Politically, central India at that time was divided into 16 kingdoms, and larger kingdoms invaded and swallowed smaller ones. Culturally, the society was divided into 4 castes. So we have the Brahmin caste at the top, and then the warrior caste or the ruling class, and then the merchants, farmers, and then the lowest, the servants. And there were also untouchable people too. Religiously, it was a time of various contending Indian schools of thoughts. So at that time, the Vedic tradition had lost its power. So people no longer had faith in this religious system. So they tried different ways to reach God, the ultimate reality. So the Buddha was one of the religious seekers at that time. And the Buddha, he finally succeeded in his own quest for liberation from suffering. And he started his mission to bridge the new way, how to be liberated from suffering completely. And so he started his mission. He had to enter into dialogue with various groups of people, with the political leaders, with religious leaders, with people from various backgrounds. So if you read the Buddhist scriptures, the Pali Canon, you will see the Buddha bridged his religion through dialogues. So through dialogue, he transformed several lives. To help people change from evil into good ways of life and to stop violence. Through dialogue, he convinced political leaders to stop war and violence. Through dialogue, he settled misunderstandings with other religious groups. So he has a lot of wisdom for us to learn today, and I will share with you one of his framework. Confucius, we can say that he is contemporary of the Buddha, but in the context of China. At the same time, he was born in China, in a small feudal state of Lu, northeastern China. So his teachings today have influenced a large population of the world. So, but he came from a very, difficult family background. His father was from the lowest rank of nobility, and the father died when Confucius was very young. So he was kind of orphan. And he lived in poverty, but he devoted himself to learning at an early age. And he acquired knowledge of Chinese history, culture, ritual practice that allowed him to become a distinguished teacher. And his time of teaching, when he conducted his teaching, it was a time of warring states. China at the time was divided into several states ruled by the feudal lords, and they fought each other. They used laws, punishments, and weapons to solve problems, to rule the people. So people suffered a lot. So Confucius disagreed with this way of leadership. He believed that good leadership, good way to peace is not through weapon violence, but from moral leadership, from virtuous leadership. So he believes that by building harmonious relationships in, top down, in family, in society, then peace can be restored. So he went from one state to another one. He tried to get an official position to promote his idea, but he failed. No leader was convinced that his idea worked. So they thought that using violence is more effective than using morality or soft skills. So Confucius failed. Finally, he returned home and he accepted to teach his ideas to a small circle of disciples, around 72 disciples. It was also the beginning time to emerge 100 schools of thought. So we see that Confucius' thought is not outstanding at that time. There were 100 schools of thoughts. And his idea was just among people try to solve the problem of China, how to bring peace, what is the best way to lead people. But after Confucius died, around half a century later, his idea was promoted to be the official ideology of the nation, of education. So we see that people need a lot of time to recognize the good idea. Truth takes time for people to realize. So it means that as educator, what we do is not to expect the external world to change rapidly. If we have best idea, wonderful ideas, our job is not to expect people to understand us so soon, but our job is to loyally cultivate ourselves and to spread the ideas. Hopefully, one day, people will benefit like Confucius' ideas. Now, I will give us about 2 minutes to reflect on this question before I start to introduce the Buddhist framework on dialogue. My problem is sometimes when I get angry about the issue, when someone hurts me, I cannot control my words. I cannot think it clearly to speak in a nice way, for example. Then it may upset people more. Let's share with you the Buddhist framework, how we can improve our communication or in our dialogue with others, how we can turn it into an effective dialogue. How to become virtuous, skillful, and prudent in dialogue for solving problems. And this is the framework I constructed from my study of the 3 collections of the Pali, the Sutta Pitaka, the Dikha Nikaya, Majjhima Nikaya, and Anuttara Nikaya. So this is the framework. I love it so much. And I published this in an article journal in the Indonesian journal, International Journal for Cross-Cultural and Religious Studies just this year. You can download it. It's open online. This is the framework for minimizing problems and maximizing benefit in dialogue and communication. So most of the time when we communicate with others, I guess we miss one of the stages in this framework. So the framework, the Buddha's framework for communication has 3 stages. Before we speak something, it must go through these 3 stages before it comes out. So the first stage, before we communicate, we have to reflect. So reflection for the Buddha is the key to good communication. Without reflection or no reflection, we may have, we made a lot of mistakes. It may lead to more harms, more negative consequences. So reflection is the key for good communication, for good dialogue. After we reflect several times, we then make decision to speak out or not. But once we make decision to speak out, it's not just to speak out anytime, but the Buddha has principles for communication, how to make it more effective, to maximize benefits. It's not just speak out. So here I will share with you what criteria we can reflect on for each stage. So for the reflection stage, I have found like 5 principles from the text that we can check our thoughts. So this helps us become very good and skilled at controlling our thoughts before it comes out to the mouth. So reflection, the first criterion for reflection is truth. We have to ask ourselves, is it true? Is it fact? We have to check it. If it's wrong information, then it may cause a lot of harms in a long time. So we have to check, verify, investigate whether what we say is true, correct, fact or not. Second, when we verify is it true already, it's not enough to speak out. We have to check the second criterion, the consequence of the thing that we are going to speak. Will it leads to harms, to negative consequences, more negative consequences than good ones. If it leads to more consequences, more negative ones, the Buddha said, no, don't talk. So consequences, you have to reflect on that. The third, purpose. We have to check the third one. Is it necessary? What is the purpose of speaking this? Sometimes we just speak, it doesn't go anywhere, even though it's true. It may not harm anything, but it's nonsense, it doesn't lead anywhere, so it's a waste of time. So for the Buddha, the purpose of speaking needs to have a good purpose. It must lead to benefit, to peace, to welfare, to goodness, to transformation of ourselves, of others. Possibility of success is another criterion for us to check. Sometimes we are not in the position to speak something to someone. If we don't know this, we will face problem. Do we have the power to convince the person if we speak this? Usually people of equals or people of kind of lower status cannot convince people of equal or of higher status of their wrongdoings and mistakes. It's very difficult to speak. So that's why we have to check, do we have the power to convince the others? And then the last criterion is self-conduct. Am I worthy speaking it? Am I blameless in my thought, in my speech, in my action? So if we are going to convict another one of their fault, their problem, but we ourselves commit similar thing or even worse, then we are not worthy speaking out that. So the Buddha gave these 5 criteria for us to reflect before we speak. If we meet all these 5, it's very good. We can decide to speak out. But for the Buddha, the first 3 criteria are the most important one. It's uncompromising principles for speaking out. If we reflect several times and what we are going to talk meets the first 3, we can go forward to speak. But with conditions, now we come to communication. So when we decide to speak, after reflection for a long time, okay, I will speak this. But then the Buddha said, wait, check the criteria for the communication. Are you able to do this or not? Or else what you say, may not be beneficial, may not be effective. So first, speak gently. Am I able to speak gently with difficult things? With things that I feel so much painful or hurt? Can I speak gently? Because speaking harshly, it's very hard for people to accept. So speak gently will increase the chance to be listened to. Second, speak with compassion. So if we come with frustration, with anger and hatred, then people will feel, oh no, they fear, they're afraid, they will not listen to us. So if we can speak with compassion, then people will receive what we talk more easily. Third, speaking at the right time. I like this very much. Sometimes we speak at the wrong time, people don't receive it. People, it may bring bad consequence. Not the right time, the right place. But if we speak at the right time, people are ready to listen. Speaking clearly and slowly is also important when we are frustrated, right? So how to speak clearly, slowly, so the message will not be lost and people can receive the message easily. Speaking logically and meaningfully. This is also important, how we convey the shape, the message in a way that people can understand with us, can agree with us, not to speak with one-way logic, assertion, imposition, irrational, thing like that. So people cannot receive. So we have how we can frame the truth, what we speak in the logical and meaningful way, how to lead people to the level that we want to talk. So these are the 5 principles for communication to help us reflect. So this formula will be your take-home formula for your cultivation, to check yourself whenever you want to speak something very unpleasant, very painful. You have to reflect in order to increase the chance for being accepted. So now I give you some 2 minutes just to reflect. Based on this framework, what principles have you been good at? I mean, you are already good at. And what principles do you plan to improve? You like it and you want to improve. So please share in the chat box. I see a lot of responses in the chat box. I move to the second theme of my talk today, lifelong learning. How do you see lifelong learning? Is it important? Why or why not? We all see the importance of lifelong learning because of the changing context. Every day, new things coming up. As educators, we have to update ourselves to be relevant, to be effective in our work and in our lives, and for lifelong peace. I agree with your ideas that first, because of the rapidly changing context of today, we have to update ourselves, or else we will be backward our update and we cannot meet the needs of the current situation. And also for our self-improvements, for peace, because our self-transformation requires learning, or else how can we change ourselves? So the more we learn, we can, have better ways and decisions to cultivate, to change ourselves, to be happier, more peaceful, and more beneficial to the world. And the Buddha also said that learning is one of the properties that belongs to us ourselves. No one can take it away from us. Other things we consider as property, like wealth, like reputation, family, these things will disappear with time. But our learning capacity will be with us for a long time. This is our property. Besides other things like virtue, faith, generosity, wisdom, these belong to the self. We can bring it with us wherever we are. And we can share, and it never ends. So whatever from inside, we can share forever. We benefit more people. So learning is, for Confucius, is the way to cultivate the person, the way to peace. So I will go to the framework. We all know the importance of lifelong learning, but sometimes we cannot sustain it after we have initiated it, especially for self-learning. I experienced this, I love to learn this and that, but after a short time, I could not continue. So I think for sustainable lifelong learning, I would see how we answer the why question, why we study it, and then we identify the what and the how. For the why, the more essential goal we can see, the more sustainable lifelong learning can become. Then when our goal is good, we can see far enough with clear vision, then it will lead us through the turmoil, through the turbulence, through difficulties, problems, stress. We can continue to reach the goal. But if our goal is very short-term, temporary, we may not have enough kind of spirit to sustain our goal. So here I present the 3 lifelong learning models. One from kind of modern way of lifelong learning, modern way of understanding lifelong learning. Second is from Confucius, and third from the Buddha. So we see how they set goals and what they propose for the reaching the goal. For the modern model, I got it from Andrew Holmes, a lifelong educator from the UK. He wrote a book on lifelong learning, and this is his understanding of lifelong learning to maintain the longevity of one's working life. So these are the areas that a person can cultivate, can develop, like technical kind of job skills or knowledge, and then emotional intelligence, cultural, political, intellectual, intrapersonal, like kind of soft skills. But for the Confucius, the end goal is to become virtuous, successful leader, educator in family, society. So the what to learn is knowledge, skills, and virtues. He stressed on virtues. For him, virtues is the key to success. Being virtuous person. Knowledge without virtue for him is dangerous. So virtue is important besides knowledge skills. For the Buddha, the end goal is complete self-mastery and freedom from suffering. So his education curriculum is step by step from lower to higher, from cultivate right knowledge to virtues, and then meditation, concentration, and then wisdom, and then complete peace. So these are good models to reflect what are our goal, our purpose for our lifelong learning. So the farthest we can see for our life, what we want to become, then it can lead us in the long run. It can help us sustain, decide what we want to learn. Now I will go to Confucius' methods of cultivation. From my study of the great learning and analytics, I come up with this model from Confucius' way of learning. At that time, Confucius did not have good conditions like us with internet, can learn whatever, but he had only very few books, history, culture, rituals. And so he a wise person who tried to learn from every possible way. So for him, cultivation of the person is the root of everything besides. It must be the beginning thing that we have to do. So cultivation of the person starts with cultivating the mind. And then to increase knowledge, right? To expand knowledge. But knowledge expansion must go with reflection. If knowledge learning alone, like banking knowledge, like memorization is not good, not enough. For Confucius, we must have capacity of critical thinking, reflection on what we learn. And then when we learn about good and bad, we have to put into practice. So for Confucius, learning and practice have to go together. And then learning from books, from formal education is not enough. Learning from observing others. This is a good point from Confucius. So he looked at other people around him to learn the good and the bad things. For the good thing, he tried to imitate. He tried to cultivate himself to be good. For the bad things from others, he tried to avoid. If he see bad things, mistakes from others, he will check himself. And he will try to avoid the same mistakes like that. So he's very wise. Because we cannot live long enough to experience all the problems and mistakes and then learn from our mistake. So by observing others, we can learn new things, good things, and we can avoid the problems that people make. And then we become wiser. So reflection for Confucius is very noble way of learning. Imitation is easy, good. We imitate, but reflection is very noble. But learning through experience is the bitterest way because we don't have good, intelligence to see the problem and we repeat the mistake. and it's very bitter. So learning from other is a good way. And for Confucius also suggests that every day we should examine our self-conduct. What are the good things we do? What are the bad things that we did? Did we have anything that we regret in our communication, in our interaction with others? Did we do any harmful things to others? Did we have anything that we need to do but we failed to do? So he suggests that we have to check ourselves daily. And for educators, he suggests that we should correct ourselves before we teach others. Whatever we teach others, we have to apply for ourselves first. So I convey Confucius' teachings. Okay, we need a lifelong to cultivate, to be perfect. It takes time. And then the last thing we can learn from Confucius is non-stop learning and improving. So Confucius, he has a yearning, for learning. So he said, if I'm given 50 more years to live, then I believe I can avoid many great mistakes. So if we learn and cultivate, correct ourselves every day, we can reach the point of, being better and better version of ourselves. We can become more moral, more compassionate, more wiser, and more peaceful being. And then Confucius, he believes that once we cultivate ourselves to become a virtuous person, then we will be successful in our family. We will be successful in our leadership of the society and even in the world. Let me share with you about cultivating the mind. There are some interesting things to learn. For the mind, so Confucius said that the learning is the foundation for making the mind correct, or making the mind good condition. So the cultivating the mind have to start with investigation of things. I mean, we have to study, look at the world with new things. We have to investigate, to learn. And through learning, we expand our knowledge. And when we know a lot, our knowledge is expanded, our thoughts will become sincere. And then when our thoughts become sincere, then our mind will be correct. And he advised that we avoid the 5 things that make our mind incorrect. It affects our mind negatively. So these are the 5 things. So when we experience these 5 things, so don't make any decision. We have to make our mind calm down, cool down first. First is our mind is affected by passion. We're so excited about something, so kind of passionate for something. Then don't make decision because your mind is already biased. So you have to avoid mind with passion. Second, when your mind affected by terror, so fear, you become frightened. So then your mind's kind of, narrow. You cannot make good decision. Fond regard. That means you have love for this and that. Then your mind is not correct. Distress and sorrow is also a factor that affects the mind. The mind is not correct to make decision, to see things clearly. Absence of mind, when your mind is traveling in other place, wandering around, you're not concentrating on what you're doing. So absence of mind is another factor that makes your mind incorrect. So incorrect mind leads to improper conduct. So we remember 5 things from Confucius when our mind experience these things. So be cautious, mindful of these, and we have to kind of get our mind back into the normal stage so that we can see things clearly and make good decisions in whatever we do. I have explained the whole model from Confucius. So we remember these are the methods that the way that Confucius, he cultivates himself. And this is what he can, share with us, his wisdom. Cultivating the mind is the starting point for cultivating the person. To be whole person educator, it's important we start with our mind. I think that's also the Buddha's way, cultivating correct view, correct mind by learning, expanding knowledge in learning, through learning, and then reflecting on what we learn, applying the things that we learn that we believe is true, as correct, as what we should do. And then we look to others to learn good things to imitate, bad things to avoid. Every day we examine ourselves, what we have done well, what we have not, in order to improve, to correct and improve ourselves, and never stop learning, and never stop improving ourselves through learning, and set our goal so we can reach the goal. So our life, daily life, our time will not be wasted, but will be used in a beneficial way. Now I have exercise for you to reflect for your lifelong learning plan, for your self-development, developing self-study habits. So my question for you to reflect, if you are to plan your lifelong learning, what knowledge, skills, virtues would you like to develop? Or you can add more wisdom. Why? So I asked you about the goal. So what is your goal, your purpose that you want to reach? What type of person you want to become? That means your purpose. And what do you want to learn? What kind of knowledge you want to cultivate? What kind of skills you want to, cultivate? And virtues. I mean, like good characters, like compassion, like patience, diligence, honesty, sincerity, whatever. And then methods. What are your methods that can bring you to your goal, to reach the goal? So you can bring this question back home and continue to reflect and come up with a good plan, comprehensive plan for your own lifelong learning cultivation, which can benefit you individually and for your community as well. So I would like to thank you everyone for your patience and for your attention